Welcome to Truth Beyond Theory, Beast of Revelation Part 3. Now this video is going to be a little bit different than the way that I normally format my videos, and it's only because we have so much to unpack. So let's get right to it. Revelation 13. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rising up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard, his feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as if it had been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. Okay. Now that's Revelation 13. You guys can read the rest, but I just wanted to go ahead and read those verses because they're significant. Now, if you guys know about Revelation 13, you know that it goes on to talk about how it's given authority, it speaks blasphemies, and then it talks about the wounded head that is revived, it heals itself, and then it goes into the beast out of the earth, that's the beast that introduces the mark of the beast, which I already have a series on that. You guys can go and check that out, part 1, 2, and 3, mark of the beast, which then talks about the image, and then it talks about the harlot. Now, Revelation 17 is also very important regarding who this beast is, because Revelation 17 introduces the harlot, but it also interprets who the beast of Revelation 13 actually is. Okay. And it talks about the harlot who also sits on the beast. And he says, John is the one writing this. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of blasphemies, which was full of names of blasphemy. Okay. Having 7 heads and 10 horns. So there's the beast again. All right. And then John interprets it. He says, here is wisdom. Here is the mind that has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is, and 1 has not yet come. Now that's very significant because John is the one that's writing this. He tells us, now you got to remember, mountains in the Bible is an allegorical term for kingdom. Okay. Always. Mountains is always kingdom. And the Bible tells us that the 7 heads are 7 mountains. So the 7 heads of the beast with 7 heads are also 7 mountains. And these are my mountains. All right. So forgive my drawing, but these are my mountains. And it says that there are also 7 kings. Kings don't rule mountains. Kings rule kingdoms. He tells us 5 have fallen. So if John is the one writing this, John was writing this during the time of the Roman Empire, during the rule of the Roman Empire. And he tells us 5 kingdoms have fallen. Well, which were those kingdoms? Right. So we have the Egyptian Empire, the Assyrian Empire, the Babylonian Empire, the Medo-Persian Empire, and the Grecian Empire. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 have fallen. Then he tells us 1 is. That's the Roman Empire, because he's writing this during the time of the Roman Empire. And then he says 1 has not yet come. All right. So the 7th hasn't come yet. It hasn't come yet. Now, we know throughout history that the Roman Empire had 2 divisions. They had the Western Roman Empire. They had the Eastern Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire included Rome. Okay. The Eastern Roman Empire, when the Western Roman Empire fell and ceased to exist as an empire, the Eastern Roman Empire continued in Byzantium, the Byzantine Empire, which their capital was in Constantinople, which is modern day Turkey. Okay. And then they ended up going to war with Mehmed II, and Mehmed conquered the Byzantine Empire. And then that became the number 7, the Turkish Ottoman Empire, the Islamic Empire. God is telling us, watch out for number 7. So he's pointing to these regions. God isn't pointing to the literal kingdoms. What is going on here is that God is pointing to the geographical locations in which these kingdoms once ruled, because the regions in which all of these empires once ruled, today they're all Islamic nations. Remember, if you've been following me and watching my videos, I keep saying over and over again that all of biblical end time prophecy has everything to do, 100% has everything to do with Islam. It's pointing to Islam. All prophecy is pointing to Islam. All biblical end time prophecy. All right. And I've been showing everything throughout my videos, the mark of the beast, the image of the beast, the harlot, right? I've been showing the consistency of how it all fits and connects to Islam, right? So that means the beast must fit as well. The beast is not an individual. It's not the Antichrist individual. The beast is a system, okay? And that system is the system of Islam, because the beast isn't talking about the ancient kingdoms. It's talking about the geographical locations in which those kingdoms once ruled, because today all of those regions are Islamic nations today. If you don't believe me, pause the video and Google each empire. Google the Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, Medo-Persian, look at the maps in which they once ruled. You'll find them all throughout North Africa, East Africa, and throughout the Middle East, from Turkey all the way down over to Iran. That's what this is, okay? And then it tells us, remember, it tells us that it has the body of a leopard, the feet of a bear, and the mouth of a lion, right? Well, that's the Grecian Empire. But the Grecian Empire in the Hebrew is Yavan, or Ionia, which is Turkey. And then the bear is Medo-Persia, which is Iran. And the lion is Babylon, which is Iraq. Okay? And then Revelation 13 tells us that it has a head wound. But then the head wound is revived. It comes back. And remember, in Revelation 17, 5 have fallen, one is, and one has not yet come. And when he comes, he must continue for a short time. The beast that was and is not is himself also the 8th, and is of the 7th, and is going into perdition. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. So there's even an 8th. Okay, remember, the heads are empires, but there's even an 8th. There's even an 8th kingdom that is of the 7th. So here we have the 8th, and I put a question mark because who is the 8th? Remember, Revelation 13 tells us there's a head wound, but then the head wound comes back. So if heads are mountains, kingdoms, that means that one of the heads, one of the empires suffered a head wound, fractured. One of the empires fell, but then comes back. If you know anything, then you'll know that the Ottoman Empire ceased to exist. They stopped being a caliphate in 1924. Look that up. Okay, look that up. 1924, the caliphate was dismantled. Okay, head wound. And then lately, we've been seeing them come back. We've been watching the revival of the Islamic Empire. Okay, we're actually witnessing this today. That is the 8th. The 8th is the revival of the Ottoman Empire, the Islamic Empire. Okay, remember, the Bible tells us that it has 10 horns. So each head had a horn. This one had a horn. Assyria had a horn. Babylon had a horn. Medo-Persia had a horn. The Grecian Empire had 4 horns. Remember, in the book of Daniel, Daniel 7, regarding the 4 beasts, he also has a vision of the bear, the lion, the leopard, the same composite of the beast of Revelation. But it tells us that the leopard had 4 heads. Also, when you look at Daniel chapter 8, the ram and the goat, when the goat's horn is broken, 4 horns grows out of its place, which was the Grecian Empire. Okay, the Grecian Empire, 4 horns. Then the Roman Empire had a horn. The Ottoman Empire had a horn. Add it up, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7 heads, 10 horns. It's giving us the sequence of events. Okay, the sequence of the kingdoms. All right, and it's telling us watch out for number 7, because it's this empire in which the ends of times appears. Okay, and we're witnessing this today. I mean, even aside from the Bible, we can literally see what is happening regarding these nations. Okay, these regions in the Middle East today. Okay, and time and time again, when you're studying the Bible, you see that in the ends of time, Israel goes to war with Islamic nations. The Bible names the nations. Every nation literally mentioned by name in the Bible, in which the Lord fights in context in the ends of time. Isaiah 63, the book of Zechariah, Jeremiah, all these different books in which the Lord fights a nation. Today, They're all Islamic nations. Every nation mentioned by name are all Islamic nations. Okay? In fact, I challenge anyone to find me a nation in which God is fighting that today isn't a Muslim nation. You'll never find it. So it's a reason why he's pointing to these regions. He's not pointing to the kingdoms. He's using the kingdoms so that he can show you the geographical location in which these kingdoms once ruled. Remember, the Bible in the book of Daniel, it tells us that when in the ram and the goat, when the horn is broken from the goat, 4 horns are grown out of that one horn. And then it says, then out of one of the 4 horns, a little horn comes out. Well, the little horn is also the 8th king. Okay? So there's the little horn. You see how it all fits? Because there's also a little horn. All the kingdoms already have their horns. Who's the little horn? He's the 8th king. Right? Revelation 17 tells us there's also an 8th that is of the 7. Revelation 13 tells us there's a head wound, the empire falls, but then revives. It comes back. It becomes healed. Well, the healed head wound is the 8th king. The healed head wound is the little horn. Okay? And matter of fact, let me slide this over. Here, give me 1 second. Now look, we have Daniel 7. Daniel 7 has a vision of 4 beasts, the lion, the bear, the leopard. The 4th one, he doesn't know what it is. And then he also, in Daniel 2, Nebuchadnezzar has a dream of a statue, right? And then Daniel tells him, you are the head of gold. He's talking to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon. Where was Babylon? Iraq. Okay? Then the silver, that's Medo-Persia. Where's Persia? That's Iran. And then the bronze, right? That's the Grecian Empire. And where was that? That's Turkey. And then the iron. Now, people would say that these are the 2 divisions of the Roman Empire. Even if it was, I don't think that it is. I think it's talking about something else regarding the regions. But even if you wanted to add this and include that this is an argument and say that this is the Roman Empire, the 2 divisions, the Western Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire. Okay, but remember, the Western Roman Empire included North Africa, Morocco, Mauritania, Tunisia, Sudan, Libya, right? All of that was part of the Roman Empire, which today are all Islamic nations. And the Eastern Roman Empire included Turkey and parts of the Middle East, which are all Islamic nations. Okay, so you can easily get 5 toes of the Western Roman Empire and 5 toes of the Eastern Roman Empire and muster up 10 nations within the Roman Empire that are Islamic nations. Easy. And then it tells us that the feet is iron and clay. Now the word mixed with iron and clay, mixed with iron and clay in the book of Daniel. The original Greek word is Greek word, Strong's Concordance, Greek 6151. Look that up. Look up Greek word 6151. The word mixed is Arab. So the mixture is an Arab kingdom. It's not a mixed kingdom, it's an Arab kingdom. And that's in the original text. Okay? And this is exactly where Islam comes from. Every single one. See, the Bible's giving us the sequence of these regions, the sequence of events. And remember, the lion, you guys know the lion represents who? Babylon. Always. Nebuchadnezzar was the lion, king of Babylon. And the bear is who? Iran. The leopard is who? The Grecian Empire, which is in Turkey. Remember, he tells us that he doesn't know what the last emperor, he doesn't know what the 4th beast is. Because these are all kingdoms. But he doesn't understand and know what the 4th one is. But that makes sense because John tells us that 5 have fallen, one has not yet come. So he doesn't know who's the 7th empire. The 7th empire is the 4th beast. Okay, that's the Islamic Empire, the one that comes in the end, the 8th. The 7th, the 8th is the 7th. It's the same one. And the reason being is because he doesn't know what this empire is. It didn't exist at that time yet. That's the 4th beast. That's the Islamic Empire. Okay? We see this time and time again. Remember, Zechariah 14 talks about the nations that surround Israel will fight and invade and destroy Jerusalem. We see it time and time again. Matthew 24 talks about it. It talks about the abominations of desolations in the holy place, in Jerusalem, right? And remember, Mark 24 talks about abominations, desolations. Matthew 24, Mark 13, but Luke 21, he doesn't call it abominations of desolations. Instead, Luke calls it, and when you see armies surrounding Jerusalem, he calls them armies. So the abomination of desolations is in fact armies surrounding Jerusalem. Okay? So what's happening is it's giving us the sequence of events. Okay? So the beast of Revelation is not an individual. The beast of Revelation is a system. And that system is the system of Islam, because it literally points to these kingdoms. Okay, he literally points to the kingdoms. Let me show you guys something real quick. All right, now look at this. Let's see. There's the Egyptian Empire. Do you see where the Egyptian Empire is? It goes from Egypt all the way up into Turkey. Okay? Now, here is the Assyrian Empire, which goes from Persia, so it's from Iran, southern Russia, into Turkey, coming down across Israel, all the way into Egypt, right? The Babylonian Empire, pretty much the same regions. This is all Middle Eastern. There's Damascus, so it's Iraq, Syria, Jordan, right? Then you have the Median Empire, the Persian Empire. So it goes from Iran, southern Russia, all the way into Turkey. And then you have the Grecian Empire. Same region, but it stretches a little bit further going into Europe. Okay? And then you have the Roman Empire, which includes all of North Africa and East Africa, and it goes into Europe. So you can't deny that every one of these empires, at one point in time, all controlled the regions of Islamic nations of today. Every one of these empires in the regions and the lands in which they once ruled today are all Islamic nations. The Bible's pointing to Islam. I keep saying it time and time again throughout all my videos. All my videos, the mark of the beast, the woman who sits on the beast. But it makes sense that if the harlot, remember in my other videos, I showed you guys that the harlot is in fact Arabia, Saudi Arabia. And the Bible tells us in Revelation 17 that the woman sits on the beast. So if the beast is if it's an Islamic system, the woman sits on this. Why? Because, and if you guys remember, if you watched my videos, you saw the image, right? The image, I showed you guys that the image of the beast is in fact the Kaaba. Because in Mecca, they have the Kaaba stone. That's the most holiest shrine of Islam. Mecca is the most holiest place of Islam. It's the heart of Islam. Okay? And that's the woman, because she's full of idolatry. She's full of harlotry. And that's where this religion comes from. It originated in Islam. It originated in Mecca. Okay? In Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the harlot that sits on the beast. All right? So I'll end it there. And follow me on my lives. I'll talk about this stuff.